Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Inside the Blue Lab with Bluehost. My name is Nathan DeMello, and I'm part of the product team at Bluehost APAC. I'm happy to be spending some time with you this evening to talk about a very important aspect when it comes to building websites, which is basically optimizing it for search engines or SEO, as most of us call it. Uh, Before we dive into the content, I just have a few housekeeping items that I just want to cover. Some of you might be new to this GoToWebinar platform. So whether you are on a desktop or mobile device, you will see two options. One is to raise your hand, and two is if you have any questions or if you have any comments that you'd like to share in the chat, you'd have see a question mark and a hand symbol on both devices. Just as a quick test, if you all can hear me clearly, can you please raise your hands just so that I know that everything that you can hear me clearly and everything's working fine. Great. I'm seeing a few hands starting to come up. Thanks. This helps. Uh, so before I actually start today, it'd be great to get to know you all a little better. It'll help me tailor my content and talk as much as possible to be more relevant to you. So you just see a poll that will come up shortly, which basically we would like to know how the uh, kind of uh, websites that you build. Are you building it for yourself? Are you building it for someone else? Or any of the categories that you best identify with? Would be great if you can select the right option. Just give a few seconds more. I see a lot of you are responding. Thank you. Just as a follow-up, it's great to see that many of you are building a website for your building a website for your own business, and it's great that you joined this session, and I hope that you learn something new from it so that you can apply to your website and grow traffic and conversion to your uh, for your business. Just as a follow-up to this question, I just have one more poll for now, which will come up on your screen shortly. Um, this is basically to just get an understanding of your uh, experience with SEO till now. Are you someone who's just getting started with SEO, or do you have some experience with it? Thanks for your responses. I'll just give it a few seconds more. I see a lot of you still voting. Awesome, perfect. Thanks for your responses. It's really really helpful in setting the course for this talk. And it's great to see that a lot of you are getting started as well, and this is a right step in that direction. As most of you say that you are new to SEO, so I just want to start with some basics, just so that we are on the same page and we can understand the rest of the content much better. Uh, let's start with how search engines work. We all use search engines almost every day. There's Google that's the most popular, and I'm pretty sure almost all of you use Google on a day-to-day basis. There's also Bing and Yahoo, which are other search engines available out there, although they might not be as popular as Google. But all of them pretty much, in a nutshell, the fundamentals of how they work are almost the same. There are three basic steps when it comes to or components when it comes to search engines. uh, One is basically the search engine itself, right? When you visit google.com, you type in your query and you get your a response or a result. This result is coming from something what we call as a search index. A search index is basically like a database or a library of millions of web pages on the internet that's sort of processed and sorted based on the type of content and type of website it falls under. Uh, these content and web pages are collected and stored by something what's called a web crawler. A web crawler, they're also known as spiders or bots, which regularly scan your websites. They follow links on different pages and try and pick up some keywords and content from each page and store it in their search index, so that next time whenever a user types in a query, and if there's matching keywords or content on that page, it will return the most relevant results to that user. So in a nutshell, these are the basic components of a search engine. Obviously, you know, with the amount Google has advanced over the last couple of years, there's obviously more to this, and there are pretty complex and advanced algorithms that power all these components. But we won't sort of go into that depth in this call. This should be enough to kind of follow the rest of the content that I have for you today. I think a lot of you who have been developing websites for quite some time now, probably if you've been developing websites for more than 8 to 10 years, this tag that you see on the screen would look familiar to you. You'll probably even chuckle at it a bit. Uh, for most developers back then, this used to be the main aspect of SEO. All you had to do back then was just add this tag to your page, throw in a bunch of keywords, and that was about it. I mean, you say your site is optimized, and it actually worked. I mean, if a user type was searching for something that was similar to what keywords you added in the tag, there's a good chance that you'd rank pretty high up on search engines. Uh, However, this method was used and abused quite a lot, and it got to a point where website owners were actually looking at what are the top keywords and websites that people are actually searching for, and stealing those keywords and adding it into their meta tags. And what this resulted in basically was that you were cannibalizing search results from websites that were probably not even relevant to what you were doing. So, for example, if I was searching for a mobile phone company, and if I added some of the tags in my website, I could show up. If I had like a car company, I could feature in results for a phone. And obviously, that didn't go down well with Google and other search engines, and this led to the demise of this keyword, and it was no longer used. And Google in 2009 announced that they were no longer going to look at this tag anymore. And in a couple of years, most other search engines followed as well. But
Nathan,
let's take a look at why Google took this stand. Uh, but before that, let's just go through what Google, the evolution of how search has evolved over the past 10 years, right? If you look at the screen right in front of you, this is what Google used to look at probably in the late, 2007 to 2010. It used to be just a page of different links, and you'd go click on each link, see if you found anything that you were looking for. If you didn't, you'd come back, you'd go to another link, and could be quite frustrating at times where you had to check multiple links to find the right results that you were looking for. And over time, Google got smarter, and today, I mean, I'm pretty sure at least some of these you must have already experienced when you've searched on search engines. You can now get, you can convert time zones. You can tell Google, what's the time currently in New York, or what time, 5 p.m. IST, what's the equivalent time in another time zone. You can convert currencies. You can, search things like recipes pretty quickly. You don't have to, search different links. It's right up there in an easy to consume view. And it goes on to flight statuses. And one thing that's really um, kind of really interesting, and testament to how search has become smart and evolved over time, is if you see the screen, for example, I've searched what is the interest rate on fixed deposits in SBI Bank. Google was able to understand that I was searching for fixed deposit rates in SBI Bank, found me the relevant results, and showed me the actual percentages, different tenures that I could invest in, and also, most interestingly, found me the most recent results. I didn't specify that I wanted, the results, the what's the interest rate today. It could have probably fetched me interest rates from 3 years back, but it did show me the most recent and relevant results for me. As a user, I mean, this exactly probably answered my question. I didn't even, I didn't even have to look further. And this is exactly what search engines um, are heading towards. This is Google's mission, for their search engine, is to provide users with the most useful and relevant information, on their search results. And i- in extension to this, I mean, when you're looking at SEO and optimizing for your website for search engines, you really should now focus on optimizing for users first and not search engines, because that's where the future of SEO lies, is basically serving user first content and results. And how does that benefit? It's a win-win for both end users and website builders and owners as well. I mean, if when you keep the user first in their results, in your results and in your website and content, you're giving them a high quality search experience. Um, they don't have to spend a lot of time finding what they're looking for. They find information as accurate information as quick and the best way possible. As a website builder or website owner, once if you're giving relevant content and a high quality search experience to your users, you're going to improve your conversions as well. Like earlier, when you used to, if you just focus on ranking high in the page, you'll probably get visitors, but you might not get quality leads and visitors that will actually engage and convert on your website. uh, if we are providing relevant search results to users, it's definitely going to improve your conversions on your website, and they're more likely to engage with your site. If you're building a blog, they'll share it, they will comment on it. If you're selling something, they're more likely to buy it as well. And when you have improved conversions on your website, and getting traffic organically, you're less likely to spend uh, a lot on paid advertising as well. Um, Obviously, I'm not saying that you won't have to spend anything at all. Uh, Given how competitive the search space is, you constantly have to keep optimizing and keep your site relevant so you rank up there. But at some point, you'd probably still have to continue, uh, to get where you want to be. You still have to invest in paid advertising to some extent, but you might not have to spend as much. So I just like to cover some of the top 10 ranking factors that uh, Google is currently considering when they rank websites. This is heavily influenced by what we saw previously, which is about showing relevant content to users when they're searching for something. Um, this is not a this is not an absolute fixed list. There are way more ranking signals that Google considers, but these are considered the top 10 currently. Google, just a disclaimer as well, that Google does update its algorithms multiple every other day, and those are mostly minor changes, but there are about 4 to 5 major algorithm updates every year that could have an impact on this list as well. Uh, One of the most major updates that, I mean, if you might have followed Google's conference in May this year, they announced that they are going to have an increased focus on page experience, where their focus is going to be on providing a good page experience to customers that are searching on Google. What that means basically is it's not about just showing relevant content in search results anymore, but rather once a user clicks on a search result, we want to provide a great experience to them as well. We don't want to end up, if a customer clicks on a link on Google, you don't want them having to stare at a blank screen while the page loads, or if content is slow uh, or not loading for them. That's not a great experience, and they're definitely not going to find what they're looking for. A couple of I'll just touch on a couple of main items as part of this list. Some of them are self-explanatory, but one of the main what remains one of the top priority items on this ranking list is providing high quality content. Right, best way to provide relevant results to what users are searching for is to write high quality content, uh, content that reflects your expertise, is trustworthy, it's accurate, and solves what they're looking for. uh, it also ties down to intent, what customers writing content that is relevant to what customers are looking for. Uh, if they're looking for details about or a review about a car, you don't want to show them a review about anything else. There's also domain authority, where once you start developing a repository of high quality content on your website, uh, you start at, it improves your credibility of your website. You have more users, users start sharing your content, more visitors will start visiting your content, and Google will automatically look at your site with high credibility. And next time another user is looking for the same um, search queries, they are more likely to recommend your site as well. Um, with regards to the page experience that I spoke about, some of the new factors that you'd see on this screen is a page speed and core web vitals. These were new entrants to the ranking factors, and is based on the announcement that Google made this year. This is something that's fairly early. I mean, it's just been about 2 months since this announcement, and various developers and digital marketing agencies are still finding their way through it and getting familiar with it. But yeah, I will cover what are some steps that you can take on your WordPress site to improve these metrics in a bit. So I like to start with some practical tips of what you can do to improve uh, your SEO on your WordPress site. How you can rank master those top 10 ranking factors and improve your overall uh, relevance and positioning on search engines. Uh, for the purpose of this demo, I've used a dummy site that I've created. Like you can see, I hope you can see my screen clearly. Uh, the website, the domain is bluehost demosite.com is a test website that I've created, and we'll just start by logging into my WordPress panel. Right. So we are into WordPress right now, and these are some of I'll what you see now are some basic checks that you'd have to ensure that you get right before go into any other advanced optimizations on your website. So let's start off with going to settings and clicking on general. One moment. Sorry about that. It seems to be some issue with playing this. Right. So we are in settings in general, and the first right. So the first thing that you see on this page is a site title and tagline. The site title and tagline is something that is the first thing that the user sees in a search result for your website on a search engine. Uh, if you go to Google and search for any website, the first thing you'll see is the site title. Um, like for example, in this case, would be inside the Blue Lab, and followed by a tagline, whatever I add in the tagline field. This is prime real estate that you have on a search results page, and you definitely want to leverage that and ensure that you uh, are optimizing that in the best way possible to reflect your website. After adding a site title, right. So, for the purpose of this demo, I've added a sample tagline, just tutorials by Bluehost, and I'll go ahead and click on Save Changes. Uh, what we also want to pay attention and look at on this page is your WordPress address and site address. We want to ensure that you're using the right domain name reflecting here, and it has HTTPS. HTTPS is the new standard now, and all sites should have it. If you don't have it, various browsers, including browsers like Chrome and Firefox, are now highlighting this to visitors, saying that this site is not secure. And also, if you're at HTTPS, if you're not aware, kind of adds a layer of encryption to your website. So any connection between a user and your website server is encrypted. Uh, you'd want to especially have this enabled if you're accepting any sensitive information from customers, or uh, especially if you're selling something and accepting online payments. That's for sure you need to have that. Once we are done with this, we will go and click on the reading menu item on under the settings menu. Uh, in this, there's not a lot that you'd have to change over here. But one thing you'd have to pay special attention to is the last option, which says search engine visibility. For most of you, by default, this would remain unchecked. However, since this is a test website and I have dummy demo content added to it, I don't really want this site to be indexed on Google. So I have kind of enabled this option, but this option basically tells the web crawlers that I'm not interested in my site getting indexed on Google. You don't have to go ahead and crawl my website. So that's definitely something you don't want to do in case if you are looking to rank your site on search engines, and I'm assuming most of you are since you are attending this webinar. Um, yeah, there's not really any action that you need to take over here, but just ensure that this option is not checked. Um, for the purpose of this demo, I have just gone ahead and disabled it. And lastly, uh, I go to the next menu item under settings called permalinks. This basically refers to the structure of your website URL. By default, you can see plain is selected, uh, and it basically structures your URL of your website using some random characters and numbers. For example, you see P equal to 123. That might not make a lot of sense, and if it's on a search results page, a user's not it does not tell you a lot about what the content on that page is, and it's not. There are chances that the user might not click on that. If you are building a website, probably for your business, like most of you indicated you are, you can use, I would recommend using the post name option. The post name option basically, uses the post or page name. So if I create a page called contact, uh, and if I select post name over here, my website will actually be Bluehost. The URL for my page will actually be bluehost-demosite.com/contact, which is much more easy to understand as a user. That's something I'm familiar with as well, because it's a similar pattern that other websites follow too. For blogs, while blogs can also use the post name or page name, some blogs prefer, actually organizing their content based on the date it was published. So in that case, you can use something like a day and name or month and name, which will actually have the date when the article was published in its URL. And this is particularly helpful, on search engines. If you it tells the user how recent the article was written. And the last option that you see is the custom structure. This allows you to set up a custom structure if you don't want to follow any of the 5 options available above. Custom structure is a good choice if you want to create your own structure. Since this is a blog, since I've created a blog for this demo, I'll just go ahead with month and name and save the exchanges. And lastly, I just want to cover an aspect of you know uh, coming soon pages. These are very popular. Most hosting providers nowadays are providing this coming soon functionality by default on WordPress websites. Um, it's as easy as toggling an option via a plugin, and it adds a coming soon page to your website. It serves two purposes. One is it tells users that actually land on your website that I'm currently building the site, or I'm doing some maintenance work and it's not ready for you as yet. You can probably uh, come back later. And it also serves for search engine crawlers as well, because most coming soon plugins out there uh, today, they return a code called 503 when coming soon is enabled. And 503 essentially tells crawlers that, hey, I'm not ready for you to crawl my site yet. I'm making some changes. You can come back later. It's better than using the option we saw earlier, which basically tells the web crawler that you're not interested in getting indexed. This option basically tells them that, I'm not ready for you yet, but you can come back later and crawl my site again. So these are some of the basic checks. If you already are doing some level of SEO on your WordPress website, you'd probably already be knowing or doing some of this, but it's a good refresher nonetheless. The next item is, I think we can't with SEO. You can't really, I can't really stress enough the importance of writing high quality content, so that to make your website relevant to users and their search queries. Uh, there are multiple ways you can do this, and one of the top plugins out there, and some of you must maybe already using this plugin in your site, called Yoast. Yoast is one of the most popular SEO plugins for WordPress out there. They do a great job in ensuring that your site is well optimized for search engines. And I'll just do a quick demo of how you can leverage Yoast to ensure that you are delivering high quality content on your website. So this is a normal process for installing a plugin on WordPress. I guess you all might be, if you're using WordPress today, you all might be familiar with Yoast, uh, with installing a plugin. And this is the same process where you go to plugin, you go to add new, and you can search for Yoast and install that plugin. I'll install it and activate it, and the Yoast plugin will be ready for me to use. You see, like you can see on the menu bar, there is an entry added for Yoast SEO. Uh, to start using Yoast, it requires you to go through a configuration wizard. This basically allows you. This basically is required for you to provide more information to Yoast about your website, uh, so that they can accordingly structure your content and prepare it for SEO accordingly. So I'll begin with the wizard. It first asks me whether my site is live and ready to be indexed, or if it's still under construction and should not be indexed. Since I'm still building my site, I'll select option B and proceed. The next option asks me about the type of my site, whether it's a blog, whether it's an online store, whether it's a news channel or a business website. Uh, this is a blog that I'm creating, so I will proceed with blog. And it asked me as well. The other question asked me also if my site represents uh, a person or an organization. This is basically required for something known as a schema markup, which is a really powerful tool in terms of SEO, and we'll cover that right after this. But yeah, for the purposes of this question, I will just go ahead and click on organization and enter Bluehost. I'll leave these as default because I want posts and pages to be indexed in search results. This basically asks me how I want my site title and tagline, which we defined earlier, to look on search engines. Do I want to use a hyphen? And there are various other options available out there. The most standard option is a hyphen, so I just leave it at the default options. This basically is asking you if you want, you know, to allow users to collect anonymous information for, their product development and improvements. I'll keep that no as default. And these are some resources that Yoast provides that you can better understand what Yoast does and how you can make the best out of it. Once the configuration wizard is done, let's go ahead and see how, when you're writing an article or post on your website, how you can use Yoast to deliver high quality content. When I click on posts in the menu item on the left, these are I've added before this call. I just added a couple of uh, sample posts. Immediately, you'd notice that there are four new columns added by Yoast. One referring the SEO score, one referring to a readability score, and the last two are basically an indicator of how many internal and external links you are using on your site. Why links are important on your site, both internal and external, is because as crawlers are going through your content on your website, if they find a link that either is internal or external, they will follow that link and they will also scan those pages as well. And if an external link is if you have external links on your site, or if another site is external linking to your website, it does add credibility to your domain reputation as well, because if you are delivering high quality content, it's likely that other very popular websites would want to refer your content on their sites. They probably say, as per this blog, uh, you know uh, so and so author says this, and they'll probably quote you over there and link your blog, and that helps with the reputation of your website, because Google then sees that this site, which already has a high reputation, is now um, linking to your article. That's definitely an indicator that you're indicator to the quality of your content. So that's why internal links and external links are important, and they feature here in the post table. Let's go ahead and click on edit. Uh, this is a sample article on all about WordPress themes and WordPress themes for SEO. Uh, if you scroll to the bottom of the screen, you will see a widget that gets added via the Yoast plugin, and it gives you some options of how you can optimize SEO, readability, schema, and social. For an easy and convenient view, there's also an option to on the top right hand side. If you see the Yoast icon, it opens a panel on the right hand side that allows you to look at your SEO and your content side by side, giving you a very convenient view. So to start off with, we'll start off with a focus key phrase. So a focus key phrase basically needs to represent what your content is primarily about. Uh, uh, what kind of search queries should does this content aimed to answer? In this case, since my content is all about WordPress themes, I'll choose my focus key phrase as WordPress theme. Um, it's very relevant for anyone searching, on Google for WordPress theme. And once I add that, I see an option that pops up below, uh, which says WordPress theme, which is the key phrase that I entered. And if I expand it, I will get some recommendations and suggestions that I can follow in terms of my content. Uh, right off the bat, I can see that it's telling me that I don't have a meta description defined for my page. And a meta description is basically the description that appears below your website title in a search result on Google. For example, as you can see on the screen, this is a sample search result uh, that sample search result, or how my page will look like on a Google search. And you see my page title, you see my site title, and there is uh, a dummy content below. if you don't provide a meta description, Google will pick up something from your article on its own. But since this is prime real estate, you really have a good opportunity to convince users on what your article is all about and why they should read it. And you should definitely take advantage of this and define your meta description in this box that yours provides below. For the purposes of this demo, I've just pasted a line of text that's relevant to um, the WordPress theme topic, which I have selected as my focus key phrase. Yep, and once I added it, you can see this orange smiley kind of turn green to kind of indicate that I have done uh, my in terms of SEO, I've done a kind of a decent job at it. As the next part to this, in extension to this, there's also a readability score that yours provides. Like we saw earlier, um, a readability score. But before I get into readability, there are as you can see, although it's green, it's definitely good. Yoast is telling me that there are a few other areas that I can also do to improve SEO. These results or analysis results that you see on the right hand side of the screen are divided into two buckets. One is problems and one is improvements. Problems are some things that you should resolve, and improvements are what is good to solve, but it's not going to adversely impact your SEO. uh, Under problems, another area that is most uh, it's most common it's a most common problem when you're writing content is ensuring that you're using your key phrase in your subheadings. uh, Most of the times it's this serves two purposes basically. One is for users when they are scrolling through your content. They might not right away start reading everything. If they're just scrolling through your content, these subheadings stand out, and you want to at least use in some of them you want to use your focus key phrase to instill that confidence in the user that your article is really about what they clicked for. And it's also so search engines to kind of tell them that this article is actually about your focus key phrase, and you just not added it to your uh, article heading or title just to get to bait users into clicking into it. uh, so key phrase in sub I'll just go ahead and I've modified this subheading to ensure that it contains WordPress theme, which is my focus key phrase. We don't want to overdo it as well. You should. It's very important to maintain a good balance between the two. Uh, Once this is done, I'll move to readability. Your readability score, which you see readability analysis, which is currently a red smiley on top. Readability analysis, while it does not directly impact SEO, it is important because, the topic that we're currently talking about is providing high quality content for your users. And your content cannot be high quality if users, it's not very easy for users to read or understand. And Yoast uses a couple of techniques like what's called a fresh reading test, which basically kind of looks at your content and ranks it based on how easy it is to read with different audiences, right from uh, yeah, a younger audience to even someone older. Uh, One disclaimer I'd also like to add is that sometimes these tests uh, don't work for all kind of articles, right? So if you're writing an article on a very specialized topic that's really technical, uh, you it will definitely use some some high level language and complex sentences and keywords, and that might reduce your score. But that is acceptable and fine, and it's okay to have a low score because your article is high quality and it is intended for a specific audience. It's not meant for everyone. So in those cases, it is perfectly fine to have a low flash reading score. There are also other suggestions like subheading distributions and sentence lengths. um, Yoast does provide you a good guide for each of these. So if you click on any of these um, explanations here, it opens up a dedicated page on Yoast that will explain to you what each of these mean and how you can go about fixing it. Right. So that's how you can basically use Yoast to ensure that you are uh, keep a check that you are keeping a check on the quality of your content and ensuring that it's relevant and ready for optimize for search engines. Before we kind of proceed ahead, I have one last poll for you all. I we covered Yoast in this demo that we've seen just now. It is one of the most popular plugins. I'm sure many of you are using it, but I'd also love to know if you are using any other plugins so we can check it out and see how it performs. So if you can just uh, answer this poll and choose any of the following options. I've provided some of the most popular plugins that are used for WordPress, but if there are other plugins that are not mentioned over here, you're welcome to please add it to the chat box, and that would help all of us, kind of learn and understand what each other is using. Great. Thanks. I see a lot of you are I like I kind of expected. 81% of you are using Yoast for your site, which is great. Some of you are also using Rocket, which is interesting. This is also a great and highly ranked plugin, although it is paid. It's not a free plugin that's available. I think starts at $49 a year. It's feature rich. It offers great functionality in some terms of SEO and optimizing your website. Great. So we'll move on with this presentation. The next topic that I'd like to cover is schema markup. This is something that is really powerful in terms of SEO, but not a lot of us. I don't see a lot of us leveraging this or taking advantage of this on our website. What it essentially means is schema markup is basically some code that you can add to your website that helps search engines better understand the content of your site. For example, the image right on the top of the screen that you can see is I've searched for Bluehost contact number and it's automatically picked that up from the Bluehost website. What we've essentially done is on the Bluehost website on our contact page, we have used schema markup around our phone number to tell Google that these set of digits are actually a contact number. Uh, so once Google knows that, they can then use it to serve relevant results for queries like this. There's also there there are multiple uses for schema markup, and Google calls this rich snippets. Like you can see in the other screenshots on the page, uh, there is a rich snippet for FAQs, where these are FAQs pulled up directly from content or articles written on websites. You can use schema markup to tell Google that this is an FAQ, this is the question of the FAQ, and this is the answer of the FAQ, and Google will then use that for these results. The same goes with news results. I think a lot of us might have seen this when searching for some particular news topic on Google. It pulls up an article written by popular news channels and media. Uh, these are all articles that are written using schema markup, telling Google that uh, this is actually a news article, and you can use it as use that in providing results to customers. It's also applicable for products. You can tell Google that this is the product that I have on my website. This is the brand. This is the sort of version of the product. This is the price of the product. So if someone's looking for the cost of that product, Google can immediately and very smartly return that result to users. And the same goes with recipes that we saw earlier as well. These are recipes directly pulled up from top websites that have this content. This is not all. There are over 35 types of schema that you can use. The most popular ones are what I've listed on the screen. You can use them for articles, how-tos, FAQs, reviews, products, contact numbers, addresses, and much more. Yoast, the good part of this is that Yoast already offers some of this by default. So when you install the Yoast plugin, it generates the schema code automatically for you for about 12 to 13 content types. They are continually adding more to the number of types they support, but that's a good start where you don't have to really uh, bother about adding the code yourself. As you can see on the left hand side of the screen, this is what the schema code actually looks like. It's probably intimidating to some of you who are not developers or familiar with writing code. But this is essentially what schema markup code looks like and what search engines kind of look for. It's promoted, maintained by a community, and their website is schema.org. So if you're interested, you can go ahead and visit that site and learn more about schema markup. But if you don't, then fortunately, because you're using WordPress, plugins make it very easy for you. Like I said, Yoast automatically handles the basic markup for you, and you have another if you feel like you want a little more control over your markup, you can use a plugin called schema app structured data. This plugin also automatically generates markup for you, but it also gives you the ability to go and to view the code and make modifications yourself. um, Yoast has recently, with regards to schema markup, Yoast has recently started launching additional uh, blocks that you can use for markup on your site. So while they cover the basic 12, 13 content types like your address, contact number, and number, articles, posts. If you want to add something more custom like a FAQ, I'll just give you a quick demo of how you can do that using Yoast. So I'll get started by clicking on edit on one of my sample posts. I'll scroll right to the bottom where I want to add some FAQ questions and answers. Right to the bottom, I'll add a separator. Just yeah, I'll add a separator so that it adds some kind of formatting to it, and I'll add a heading which says frequently asked questions, and I'll use a block. So if you're if you're not familiar, blocks are basically types of content that you can easily drag and drop and add to your WordPress editor. This is part of the new Gutenberg uh, WordPress editor that is available on most WordPress sites today. Uh, you can probably read up on it on WordPress if you aren't familiar with it, and that's something that if you're interested, we can cover that in future sessions as well. Uh, but for now, you can click on the plus icon here. You'll get a list of different blocks or different content types that you can add to your article. Uh, I'll go ahead and add Yoast FAQ because we want to add an FAQ, and you'll get something like this box. It's a standard box, asks you to enter a question and answer, and in the interest of time, I'll just skip ahead to the end where I've already added content. I've added two FAQs with questions and an answer. I have the option to add an image as well if I like. And once you publish this, it's going to yeah, this is the article, and this is how it's going to look like. It looks like a normal piece of text that I've written with some standard formatting, but because I use this Yoast FAQ block, it's actually formatted it in the backend in using schema markup. So when a web crawler is actually crawling this piece of content, they will understand that it's an FAQ, and they will use it if someone's searching for similar has similar queries and they're searching for it. Like I said, Yoast is continually adding new blocks. There is a block currently. There's a block for FAQ and there's a block for how to. But there, given recent updates, recent support that Google has built in terms of e-commerce and shopping, there's a lot of blocks that are going to come out in to support products and e-commerce. So there's you can watch out for that. And lastly, I'd like to cover one of the most important topics for SEO this year, especially this year, which is Core Web Vitals. This is something that Google announced in May, and is catered towards improving the overall user experience and page experience of a website. There are three main metrics that are currently being tracked as part of this. Google might add more to this, but currently we have three, namely largest contentful paint, which basically is a metric used to measure the time it takes for the largest piece of content to load on your website. So if you have a big header image or you have a big header text, Google wants to ensure that that's the main sort of attraction on that page, and we don't want to make users wait a long time to see it. So this metric basically measures how long it takes to load the largest piece of content on your site, on your page, and Google has provided some guidelines here, which is basically anything less than 2.5 seconds is considered good. Between 2.5 and 4 seconds needs improvement, and above that is definitely not acceptable. Um, First, then the next metric is first input delay. Many times, you've probably experienced this before when you've clicked on a search result or visit a website. It's still loading, and then sometimes some pieces of it load, and you try to interact with it. You click on a button or you try to enter some text, and it takes since the page is loading, it takes a longer time to kind of respond to you, and the customer is not really sure what's happening. We want to reduce that delay. We want to respond to a customer's action, a user's action as soon as possible, and that's what this metric is aimed at fixing. Uh, the benchmarks for these are, anything less than 100 milliseconds is considered good. Anything between 100 and 300 could definitely use some improvement, and above 300 is not acceptable. The last one is cumulative layout shift. This is basically happens on certain sites where there's unexpected shifting of different elements on your screen while it's loading without any user action. So sometimes as the page is loading itself, you'll see some random pop-ups or ads or something changing in the UI and layout of the screen without it loading properly. The customers users often get confused as to what's happening because you load one layout and then while without doing anything it automatically changes. We want to control the amount of times that happens, and we want to keep it minimal so that it provides a good experience to users, and that is exactly what this metric uh, uh, exists to solve. Uh, with these three metrics, you obviously want to start with measuring these how where your site currently stands before you can go ahead and make any improvements to achieve these metrics. Uh, there are different ways you can do that. One way to do that is using Lighthouse. This is something that ships with all Chrome browsers. If you right click on your page, you'll find an option called Inspect, and you'll have a window that pops up from the bottom, and you'll see an option called Lighthouse. Lighthouse allows you to generate a report for different categories and different device types, and it gives you your scores for each of these metrics that we discussed uh, in the previous slide, and you can see where you currently stand. One sort of important thing to note over here is that Lighthouse runs locally. So if you have a poor internet connection, or you're facing issues with the resources on your device, uh, that would also reflect in your scores as well. But having said that, it's also a very good indicator of how your site performs for another user who might have similar conditions that you are experiencing. But yeah, that's one way to do that. And you can also use a service called PageSpeed Insights provided by Google. This is not a local test, so this test is run by Google servers. They actually visit your site from their servers and test how your site performs in different metrics. This is a snapshot. What you see on the screen is a snapshot of a test that I ran on this dummy site, Bluehost demosite.com. And as you can see, without much optimization, I was able to achieve a score of 56, which is not a very good score, and definitely not rank well given the new CoWeb Vitals update. So I'll just quickly go through some of the steps that I've taken to improve this score. And well, every site is different, and I'm not saying that if you replicate these same steps, you would achieve the same score that I did. There might be different factors affecting your website, but if you follow these basic optimization tips, you'll definitely be closer to uh, having a very high score. The first step I did was enable caching and CDN on my website. This is an absolute must, and most good hosting providers nowadays provide this option when you purchase a hosting package for your website. A CDN basically what it does is any static content on your website in terms of images, in terms of text content, it kind of makes copies of that on different servers globally. They have about 80 plus servers, and they make copies over there. So if someone's visiting your site from a different country, it's possible that these assets would load from a server closer to them rather than from where your site is actually hosted. That does save you a couple of milliseconds there. And caching is basically in static assets again. Um, they are kind of temporarily stored on your server in a processed form. So next time someone requests for these assets, your server does not have to do a lot of computation and processing to serve these assets to those customers. Uh, the screenshot that you see is from the Bluehost panel. We provide a one-click option for both of these, and you can easily enable these options for your site. The second thing I kind of noticed was, as was my theme, the previous theme that I'd used, and what you've seen in the previous demo videos, it was not very well optimized. What I noticed, especially from the PageSpeed Insights report, was there were a lot of resources and a lot of loading that was happening that was making it very heavy on the website and causing a delay with loading. That's why it's super important to choose a lightweight theme when you are selecting a theme for your WordPress site. You don't want a lot happening um, on your site and that impacting the page experience for your users. So I changed to something more one of the default WordPress themes, but yeah, any other lightweight site, you probably have to do some trial and error and research and choose a good lightweight theme for your site. The third thing I did was using a plugin called Smush. Smush essentially is great for image optimization. It sort of takes care of all the nitty gritties of optimizing images. We all have very high quality cameras nowadays, and we tend to directly click a picture and directly upload it to our site. Some of these can be very heavy and can kind of impact the loading experience of your site. And a plugin like Smush automatically takes care of that for you. It kind of compresses it wherever required and resizes it to the optimal size as well. There's also lazy loading is a functionality offered by Smush. What it does is basically any image on your screen that is not that's off screen, basically something that's not in the current view of of the visitor. It defers that loading to later, so it will first load all the images that the user will immediately see, and all the other images probably at the bottom where the user has to later scroll to, it would load them a bit later. So that kind of saves you some loading time as well, and you don't have to wait for the entire page and all images to load. That does help improve your loading as well. And the last optimization step that I did was using this plugin called Auto Optimize. What it does is basically optimizes your JavaScript and CSS files. It compresses it wherever required and loads them in a very optimal fashion, so it's not causing unnecessary delay in the loading of your website. Once you do all these optimization steps, you definitely need to continuously monitor and keep track of how it's performing. Uh, to do that, Google has recently launched a very good plugin called Google Sitekit. It covers some of the popular products that Google currently has in terms of measuring the performance of your website. They have Search Console, they have Analytics, and Page Speed Insights. So Page Speed Insights can be directly integrated within your WordPress panel itself, so you don't have to visit another site to run any tests. The plugin will periodically scan your website and tell you where you lack and what opportunities you have to improve. And this is what I was able to achieve after doing all these optimization steps. I will admit though that I kind of made a mistake while setting up my CDN, and this is the score I got without CDN. This would have definitely been much higher if I had enabled CDN. Uh, in extension to the Core Web Vitals initiative that Google has now started to focus on, I just want to just brush up on a WordPress AMP project that has recently been in the works by Google, along with Automatic, which is the promoters of WordPress, and other open source developers. Uh, with the same goal of providing a rich page experiences to customers, they have recently launched a plugin called AMP. What AMP basically does is optimizes your existing page and content on your site uh, to optimize it in a way that you all static content on your screen is delivered super fast and without any delays. It's aimed at meeting all your benchmarks of your core web vitals, and it's a great plugin to use if you don't want the headache of manually tweaking things to meet your benchmarks for the three metrics under the core web vitals which we just discussed. Uh, this, however, does require to have your theme AMP compatible. A lot of themes are now getting themselves compatible with AMP, so in a couple of months you have a bit larger choice to choose from. But even if your current theme is not compatible with AMP, there are still ways that you can leverage certain functionality from AMP, and that's also provided using the same plugin. So you can definitely, I would recommend definitely checking this out. It's fairly, I would say it's fairly new, and it's rapidly growing and developing. It's going to be the next sort of big thing for WordPress, and it's something that you should definitely check out further on their website provided below. I'd also like to finally talk about something that we offer on Bluehost, which is Bluehost SEO tools. This is basically a tool that we offer as an add-on on Bluehost. The tool periodically does some site scans on a daily or weekly basis. It gives you an SEO plan, with some feedback and recommendations of what you can do to improve, and some intelligence about competitive sites, some keyword suggestions, and how you're performing in general. This is something you can definitely check out if you have a Bluehost account with us. And finally, I'd like to invite all of you to, if you're not already using a Bluehost, you are free to sign up for a 30-day free trial, and the link is provided here, and we'll also add it to chat. You can definitely check out the entire Bluehost WordPress experience by signing up for a trial. I understand we are kind of a little over time, but if there are any questions, we will definitely uh, we'll definitely I'll try and answer some of them now. But yeah, if we are not able to cover anything, uh, we will definitely reach out to you with those answers.